G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben, this is Living with BC. Today we're going to have a chat about my latest read, 1984 by George Orwell, and I'll have a little quick update at the end about my April challenge. So let's get to it. Alrighty, 1984, George Orwell. Great book, written in 1949, so I mean the language is a little bit, it's not hard at all, but it's obviously a bit outdated at times. I thought it was great. It's off to a slow start, of course. So if you're going to read that, keep that in mind. Get through the next little bit. But after that, I was kind of hooked. It's eerie. It's really, really creepy. You almost think that Orwell must have either been from the future and went back to 1949 to write this book, or that he traveled through time, went into the future, and then came back to write it. Because it's very, very similar to certain things going on now. There's a echoing a lot of the same sort of things going on. I mean, you've got the telescreen, obviously a version of television, watching, listening, recording everything you're doing or saying whenever you're in front of it. People are being arrested and never heard from again just because they mutter something in their sleep, like they're dreaming, and they'll say something that the government doesn't like, and so they whisk them off and they're never heard from again. Kids are trained to spy on their parents and make sure that nothing untoward is going on. They've got anti-sex parties, so people aren't supposed to have sex for pleasure or enjoyment. It's literally just breeding for the party. There's absolutely, I mean, they're literally rewriting history. That's Winston's job. If the party determines that their stance on a particular subject has changed, he's then required to go in and take all the newspapers and whatnot that originally stated they were for a certain thing, and now he's got to rewrite them that they're now against it, so that people will just be like, yeah, they were always one or the other, whichever it might be. In today's world, you'd accuse a politician of flip-flopping and be like, what are you doing? You're going back and forth, and pick one and stick to it, or like have some sort of sound argument. Don't just follow a popular vote. But when you can rewrite history and you can erase the newspapers that said otherwise, I mean, you can pretty much say what you want. You can control anything. Certain words are banned. It's I mean, I don't want to say it's like 2021, but it's eerie in the sense that we're heading down that path in censorship and compelling speech and surveillance and things like that. It's not going to be far off. I don't know when exactly, but it won't be far off at all. I'm just going to read a couple things out, and I'm just going to quote them directly from the book just so I get them perfectly right. These are a couple of things I highlighted just because they were so prevalent in my mind, being like, this is today, this is 2021 in a nutshell. So they're talking about the totalitarian regime that is the party and what it's going to look like. What kind of people would control this world had been equally obvious. The new aristocracy was made up, for the most part, of bureaucrats, scientists, technicians, trade union organisers, publicity experts, sociologists, teachers, journalists, and professional politicians. And if that isn't, a recipe for today, I mean, people are throwing so much trust in career politicians, scientists, teachers, journalists especially. I mean, I remember I saw something earlier today. I wish I could link it in. And it was someone that had all these major news outlets in the US, and they synced up. Like, their script was exactly the same, as virtually as if they were all just given the one script, and this is the news today. This is what we're going to put out, and you're all doing the exact same thing, whether you're from New York or LA or Texas. It doesn't matter. This is it, and it's getting there. We're not far off. Another thing that stuck out to me: the party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power. Not wealth or luxury or long life or happiness. Only power, pure power. We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is not a means, it is an end. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship. And man, like, I mean, I'm going to get some flack for this, but this is left-leaning protests out of the US. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship. Wow. Just wow. I mean, it's on, like, is there a time machine somewhere? There has to be, because this is far too realistic of today's world for it to have been written in 1949 and Orwell to have no knowledge that this would eventually... I mean, obviously he's written it, like some people call it an essay rather than a novel, and I get that. I get where they're coming from when they say that. If, like, fair enough, you could argue either way, because it really is just a kind of a lecture of, like, if we don't keep ourselves in check, this is the future we're heading towards. And I guess, unfortunately, that we haven't kept ourselves in check, because this is a very similar future, what he has in this book, to what I see when I look outside the window. This one's a little bit less so, but to quote, "We have cut the links between child and parent, between man, and between man and woman. No one dares trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. There will be no loyalty except loyalty towards the party. There will be no love except the love of Big Brother." And I wanted that. I mean, it's a little bit less so, but I guess it's just, particularly with COVID all last year, like we had pretty big lockdowns in Melbourne here. You know, we had curfews. You weren't allowed outside for exercise more than an hour at a time. You had to stay within a 5K radius of your house. If not, you had to have one of your valid reasons, which would be out for work, medical, exercise, or caregiving. I feel like there might be one more. There were 4 solid reasons. Oh, it was work and caregiving. Anyway, and police were literally stopping people on the street and being like, "Show me your ID. Where are you going? What's your business? Where do you live? How long are you out for?" Like, it was kind of like, what is this? Like Soviet Russia? Like, are we in Nazi Germany? And people would just say, like, trust the politicians. They're trusting the health experts. And it was just this loop of trust the health experts, trust the government, trust the health experts, trust the government. We're here to look out for you. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but when you break down relationships and isolate people from their friends, and then you're peppering the news with the same sort of stories, like, people have to look to the government, right? Like, how can they? If you isolate them from their friends and family, you know, by putting strict curfews and no gatherings, and, you know, people weren't allowed to attend church and all that sort of stuff, no outdoor dining, you had to get takeaway, you had limits on people in your houses, all these sorts of things. You know, they separate people from one another, and they separate community. And if you've got no community, then you kind of have to look to one place for it, and the only place you're getting it is the government and the health officials. And so it's a very easy way to take power. Here in Australia, things have been pretty good. We're back to virtual, you know, pre-COVID freedoms. There's still some lockdowns here and there when a case pops up, snap lockdowns for like 3 or 4 days or something like that. But for the most part, you know, we're back to square one. We're golden, you know. But there was some talk a little while ago of, like, emergency powers being extended until December. Even here in Victoria, where there was no cases at the time, I think there's been 1 case since. And people are like, well, why are you extending emergency powers? Like, you know, the vaccine's on the way. You know, if you've got it, like, you have to catch it from someone, and if everyone's isolated and then no one has it, where's it going to come from? I thought it was great. I mean, I'd really encourage people to read it themselves, because there's so much more in there that is really interesting that Orwell would have thought of, and things like, you know, just enjoying the sunshine and fresh air is like a form of rebellion, you know. And, you know, he then Julia, he sort of has a bit of a love interest with her, and they sort of form a bond, and it's thrilling for him because they're going against like executive orders and they're not supposed to mingle. So it's really, really interesting. There's so much in there. There's so much we could unpack. Anyone that's read it, throw a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Just quickly on my April challenge was to plank for 5 minutes every day. I did this down here. 5 minutes every day. When I did my 5 minutes and it was pretty good. Around like the 17th, it was like 16, 17, 18 or 17, 18th, 19th of April. I just like forgot. I don't know. I just like woke up and completely forgot about it. And then like did that for a couple of days, and then I think it was like then 20th or something. I'm like, geez, I haven't done it for a couple of days. Like, what am I doing? Other than that, every other day. So I guess if we take off 3 days, every other day I did it. Pretty good. I mean, at first I was getting like a minute and a half, and that sucked. And then trying to wait a little bit and do another lot as much as I could, and then I'm getting sort of 2.5 up to 3 minutes in one go. So I was pretty happy with that. Happy that it's over though, because it was definitely painful for sure. That's about it from me, guys. If you've got any comments, any questions, throw them in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good one.